Hey guys, welcome. Welcome everyone. Although I have a feeling that most of my regular viewers are still asleep right now. But oh well. We're here. I'm still awake. Barely. But I'm awake. Why am I getting some lag? Hang on. I was getting some headset lag. That's strange. Can't be the wall, right? I don't think this wall is that heavy. Oh. Strange. Oh well. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone got good sleep. More sleep than I got, at any rate. I kind of have a little bit of a confession to make. The reason why I ended up not sleeping last night is because I technically explained this tentative plan to Kaku because he visited me last night. The tentative plan was I would excuse me, I would do more grinding because fucking anomaly grind is so annoying, but I have to do it anyway. So I did some anomaly grinding. After that, I would host anime night. We watched Overlord Season 4. Well, technically, we watched the second half of Overlord Season 4. We started half of Overlord Season 4 last week and we completed it this week. So that was that. And then I was supposed to get on VR, take pictures for the thumbnail today, and then go to bed soon after. I wasn't supposed to spend that long in VR because yeah, because I knew I should get enough sleep and stuff, but that didn't go exactly as planned. What ended up happening was I got the pictures. That went smoothly, and then while I was thinking of what to do before I hopped off, I was like, oh, you know what? I should check out this world that I was planning to use for another photo set. Yeah, I already have my next photo set planned. So I had a wall in mind, but I wasn't sure if it will work, so I said, you know what, let's go over there and have a look at it. Look at it one more time, see whether or not it'd be suitable and stuff. So I went to that world, and keep in mind this is still like maybe half an hour in VR. Yeah, didn't take me long to take pictures for today's stream. So yeah, this is still half an hour in VR. At least intended to spend no longer than an hour in VR. So I went to this world that I was gonna use for the photo set, and I was standing around the world checking out lighting and stuff because lighting is very important and all that. And then I switched over to the avatar I was gonna use. Toggle all the settings I was gonna toggle. Walked around the world, checked my lighting and camera. I was like, okay, so I won't be able to do everything I want to do, but I'll be able to do most of it, I think. What about props So I went to look for a prop, and I was like, okay, this prop can go here. This prop can go there. If I stand here, what type of camera positioning would, go well? If I were to stand here, what would look good? And I was like, camera's over there, how do I look? Not bad. Take picture, take picture. How about if I instead move the camera a little bit here and take more pictures? I'm like, okay, that worked. And then, wait, now, if I want to take pictures here, then I should take pictures over there. So I went to another part of the world and then took pictures there, and then it didn't stop here. And next thing I know, it was 3 hours later, and I had a full set of photos taken. The whole photo shoot was pretty much done. Yeah. So that happened. And then I was like, okay, that took a little bit longer than I expected. Oopsie, time to get off VRChat. And I was like, okay, I still need to take the photos to create a thumbnail. So create a thumbnail, blah, 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 do all that stuff. And by the time I was all done, I was like, okay.
Here's the thing,
Initially,
the way my plan was going to go was like, I was going to give myself like maybe 6 to 7 hours of sleep, but with how late I ended up staying up, by the time I was all done, I was like, okay, if I go to bed immediately, I'll get 4 hours of sleep. But I'm hungry.
Yeah. So that didn't go well. I was like, I'm going to eat something and then see how I feel after I'm done eating. I don't know, I should sleep on it. So I went to eat something, came back, relaxed, chilled, and by then I was like,
By the time I'm able to nod off, I'm probably only gonna get 2 hours of sleep, and that's not enough for a nap. I was like,
how about I just power through? So, yeah. That's how I ended up not sleeping. Whoopsie. Oh well. But it's fine, Chad, it's fine. It's fine, we're here now.
We
are
waiting for the Monster Hunter showcase to start. It's gonna be on the screen over there in like how much longer? 22 more minutes, although technically once the stream starts, there'll likely be a couple minutes before it actually goes, so
yeah. Yeah. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing the showcase.
And with regards to my Monster Hunter Rise grind, I got to research rank 108. I'm very, very close to 111, but here's the problem. Getting to 111 from 108 would likely take me 6 to 7 hours.
So
that's like at least one more day of grind off stream, and then one day of grind on stream.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to
get all the grind done before Dark Tide comes up, because Dark Tide, the pre-order beta starts tomorrow.
So yeah, whoops. It's not my fault, Chan. It's not my fault. It's fucking Rice and your fucking anomaly research. That fucking grind. The grind is actually getting longer, because I noticed once I reach research rank 100,
my research rank EXP bar, the fill rate got cut by, I think, like 25%,
give or take. So yeah, I'm fairly certain that
the grind is going to get even more tedious once Title Update 3 comes out.
God damn it. I'm not looking forward to all that grind. Hopefully, Dark Tide's grind isn't nearly as tedious, although Dark Tide has its own form of grind,
which is also RNG. Ugh.
You know what? I'm going to try to space out Monster Hunter again.
But
I've actually got a couple of things I have planned
coming up, or at least things I intend to do besides Dark Tide
coming up. I'm completing preparations to start streaming on a certain special site. This site is a site that I cannot link on YouTube anywhere, but if you were to check out my Discord or Twitter, you can probably find it. Actually, wait, hang on. I forgot to post a link in my Discord. Whoops. I should do that. Yeah, I'll do that. If I remember after the stream. Yeah. But either way, it's on my Twitter, so yeah. I'm trying to stream a certain special site that cannot be linked on YouTube, and I'm making the final preparations to stream on that site. I've had to. That was technically the thing that I did on Monday. The avatar work that I did on Monday, that was in preparation for that. I'm wondering whether or not to call the avatars ready, or if I should make more adjustments, because I could make more adjustments to my avatars. If I make more adjustments to my avatars and they turn out really good, I think you guys would really enjoy them. But the problem is, those adjustments take time, and you know how it took me an entire day to make the adjustments I've already made? These new adjustments will likely take another day. Another day minimum, possibly 2 days, because I'll be trying to perform a task that I have zero competency in, even less so than usual. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. First, I need to get other things in order first. I'll put the second round of upgrades to my avatars as a lower on the priority list. Yes, yes. I'll put it lower on my priority list while I prepare other things. I'm actually kind of nervous about streaming on that other site because that other site, I'm worried that I'm not gonna give you guys good content. I mean, I barely give you guys good content right here on YouTube. I'm worried that I'm not gonna be able to give you guys good content on the other side as well. I'll try our best. I'll try our best. By the way, chat. Before we continue any further, I need coffee. I'm running on fumes right now. I need coffee. Everyone, grab your drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you're here for the moment. It can be coffee, tea, root beer, water, anything you have, chat. As long as you're here, grab your drinks. Going in 3, 2, 1. Green bye. Cheers, everyone.
In my case, I'm drinking my third dose of coffee today.
I just start here.
Hang on.
Hang on, I need to fix something. The music was busted. Hang on a second.
Let me... Ah, goddammit.
Hang on. Sorry, chat. Whoops.
Hang on. Let me...
Fix this. And let me... Fix this.
There we go.
Hang on.
Focus, please.
Thank you. Hang on.
Hang on.
Hang on.
Okay, now it should work.
Probably. Sorry about that. Sometimes YouTube does things that you don't expect. I'm using YouTube to provide the music right now.
Da, 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 da.
This is a song of my people from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite.
I think like somewhat like what 13, 15 years ago I heard this
music all the time in the hub. This is home for me. Although technically this is a remix. This is a remix that they released for Monster Hunter Generations, which is a 4th generation Monster Hunter game.
Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was 2nd generation. That's when I started. And Monster Hunter Generations was 4th gen. And they released this remix.
Sounds so good, Chad.
And currently right now with World and Rise, that's 5th generation Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter has a really long and storied history. There are a lot of veterans with good stories. Plenty of veterans around who are always excited to teach new people how to hunt, pass along their knowledge. That includes me as well. I've taught a few people quite. Excuse me. I've taught quite a few people how to hunt. Although they've since fledged from the nest and gone on to hunt by themselves, and they're so good. I'm so proud of them. Everyone whom I taught how to hunt, whom I pass on my knowledge to, they're amazing hunters. They're even better than me. I'm just a tank hunter. My kill times are so slow because I prefer to play tank. But I made sure that they all had the skills that they needed, and then they all went on to do their own thing. And yeah, they're so much better than me. Numi, Mizu, Kaku. Wait, no, technically Mizu learned by himself. Numi I tried to teach, but Numi, he, Numi,
Numi wasn't interested in playing, and then suddenly one day
he just started playing with someone else.
and I'm like,
I get it. I get it. I get it. Fine. Fine. Fine.
but yeah, I still play with them though. Kagu, Numi,
Mizu.
Oakley. How's the lighting in this world? By the way, the lighting is kind of dark, but then again, it's supposed to be a
Dark wall.
where the TV is the brightest thing here.
I'm still looking for a good,
Movie world, but then again, it's better for the movie world to be dark. Unfortunately, while we're waiting for the show to start, we have to settle with
darker scenery then.
oh.
Oh. You know, something has been worrying me for a while. Technically, I've been worrying about this for the last 2 months, but over the last week or two, it's been it's been hitting me hard. I won't go into too much details over what I'm worried about because I want you guys to, you know, have to shoulder my burdens. But suffice it to say that I'm trying my best to adapt to what's going on.
And technically, the stream on the other side is meant to help alleviate
The
problem I'm having.
thing that I'm worried about. I really hope it goes well. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it, Jen. I don't know if I can create good content on that other site. I have to. I have no choice but to try, right? Right? No choice but to try. Yeah, if any of you guys noticed that my last couple of streams over the last 2 weeks have been a little bit, perhaps a little bit off, Yeah, I've been worried about something. In fact, the thing I'm worried about is kind of staring me in the face right now, and I'm trying my best to adapt. I'm really trying. I'm trying to figure out how I can move forward. What's the best way to move forward and grow stronger? Oh, it's been hitting me a little bit hard. Especially today. I don't want to be a downer though. I want to be happy and chill and comfy and fun for you guys. That's what I want to be. I want to provide a nice, chill, comfy, happy environment for you guys. Because that's what I hope to do. No matter when. Just good fun times all around. Maybe if I just keep that in mind, just do things for fun. That'll help me. That'll help me overcome the nervousness with regards to streaming on the other side. Just do whatever I feel is fun. Maybe I'll be able to do it. We'll have to see though. Alright, let's see here. That's the Monster Hunter. Hasn't started yet. 4 more minutes.
Okay, what's gonna happen, chat, is once the Monster Hunter Showcase starts, they'll do a countdown first before it actually starts. I'm gonna put the countdown on the screen over there.
A big screen over there.
And then we're gonna get comfy.
Sure. Gonna get nice and comfy.
And we'll have that nice screen that we can
watch and cover the showcase together.
Also, yeah, I need more coffee. I desperately
need more coffee. And
get more coffee, chat.
Where's the coffee? There we go. Cream for everyone. Cheers. Coffee. Okay. Oh, that's good coffee. Oh, alright. Okay. Let's see here. It's due to start in the next 2 minutes. Okay. I'm kind of excited, Chen. I'm excited. The guys from Monster Hunter technically already released a teaser for
what's coming in Title Update 3
and
has to do with augments. Apparently, okay, based on what this is just a single screenshot, so the information they're giving us is very minuscule. But from what I can gather, based on just this one screenshot, let me show you what I'm talking about.
This screenshot.
Excuse me. Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry.
Hang on. Okay.
I'm okay. Yeah. Based on the screenshot?
Normally, in the past we only had augment. That was all we had.
But now,
We have augment stability and augment skill plus.
that is very different. That is...
Those are new. And
I have a feeling.
here's the thing, every time we augment an armor, we roll a bunch of random RNG stuff that determines what we get for the armor. We can get plus minus armor, slot space for decals, elemental resistance, and skills. It can go either way, plus minus for everything.
And previously with just augment,
There was no real way for us to like aim our augmentation rolls.
it's just completely random.
We have to roll the dice, roll.
Constantly roll. But with these two, new augment, stability, and skill plus,
It's heavily implied that we're gonna have some ability to
aim the augmentations, which is
good about fucking time. Okay, hang on.
oh wait, hang on.
We have to go, chat. We have to go. They're about to start.
Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on.
Hang on. Let us go.
Hi. I didn't realize they're gonna start like that, so
Okay, let's go.
okay. Oh, that's so loud.
Oh, that's so loud. Oh my god, that's so loud. Fuck. Oh gosh. Oh. What the fuck? Also, hang on. That audio link is not something I want. We're not gonna be doing anything about audio link. Oh, we got
half an hour more. God damn it.
Eh. Are they playing music first?
No? Okay. Well,
Either way, we're waiting.
they're waiting. I'll wait for the countdown to complete. Check.
Okay, let me since we're here, I might as well position the camera properly now that we know what we're looking at. And I'm also going to turn on music again. We'll play our music until they give us music.
Of their own.
I need to make sure you guys can see the screen.
Also seeing me.
I can't take up too much of the screen because after all, the showcase should take center stage.
I'm just here to react to it.
I think this works. What do you guys think? Maybe I move here a little bit. Maybe repositioned like so.
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Except maybe let's bring it a little bit closer. The screen can be a bit larger.
I'll put myself here and
Hi.
this is good.
Yep, this is good.
I'll be right here for today's coverage.
I'm excited, chat.
I'm excited.
But yeah, regards to augmentations,
We finally have the ability to aim those fucking objects.
oh god,
Oh my god!
oh that's so loud.
How is it?
Why is that so loud? What the fuck? Oh god.
Oh!
Okay, they're playing trailers for other games. You know what? I feel like we don't actually need to see this. Yeah, you guys can just enjoy the trailer while I talk a little bit.
Still alive. I thought I'd never see you again.
Do you guys actually play Monster Hunter Stories?
I never got into any of the Monster Hunter Stories games. There's currently only 2 of them.
I'll say the biggest reason why I never got into them is because you only have 6 out of 14 weapons.
I feel like if you're gonna do a Monster Hunter RPG, you gotta represent all the weapons, right? You can't just represent 6 out of the 14 weapons. But unfortunately, this game only has 6 out of the 14 weapons.
A Monster Hunter, so that is unfortunate.
I've heard from some people that it is quite a fun game though.
Monster Hunter Stories.
I can't remember if Kagu played Monster Hunter Stories. I need to ask Kagu.
If he appears later.
Wait, are they playing the same trailer again?
No, it's not the same trailer. It's a different trailer. Oh, it looked like it was the same trailer again.
Music's not bad though.
Not bad.
The interesting thing about Monster Hunter Stories is that
Technically, the main character of Monster Hunter Stories
belongs to a faction that is antagonistic to the Monster Hunters Guild, which is
where we are in the rest of Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter Stories actually has a lot of story in it. I believe a major antagonist in the story of Monster Hunter Stories is a member of the Hunters Guild.
Don't know if he's rogue or if they just have a clash of ideals. But yeah. So when I play the mainline Monster Hunter series, I'm playing a faction that
is antagonistic to a faction from this game.
and
When you play this game, you actually don't go directly against the Hunters Guild.
we really don't like each other.
This is making me feel like I want to play stories though, but nah.
Nah, we have a lot of games coming up, so
Not gonna let myself get too distracted by
Monster Hunter Stories.
I think Yeah, I need them to at least represent all of the weapons.
14 weapons. Capcom, if your Monster Hunter Stories team can put in all 14 weapons, then I'm that much more likely to play. Yes. I feel like
If you're gonna be a Monster Hunter game, you gotta have 14 weapons. You don't need the frontier weapons. So the frontier weapons are, yeah. Let's not. Let's just pretend that they don't exist. We fuck the frontier weapons, but
the
the standard weapons at least
represent those.
I can understand that. Okay, maybe since they're a separate faction that is antagonistic to the Hunters Guild, they wouldn't have the weapons, well, most of the weapons that the Hunters Guild use, but
Still, I need my weapons. I need my weapons, chat. I want to use all of my weapons in this game.
Or at the very least have the freedom to switch between my mains, which is sword and shield, gun lance, heavy bowgun, and encyclopedic. Those are
kind of like the weapons I use.
Although
it's more like
my true mains,
quote unquote true mains, are gun lance and sword and shield.
I rotate between the two depending on the game, and heavy bowgun and inside glaive are tertiaries in addition to my two main weapons.
If that makes sense. I'm really hoping for a risen
Malzeno,
because I really love the base Malzeno fight. He's so cool, such a fun fight.
But as we've gotten all of the augments and stuff, now Malzeno is very weak because we power crept him out.
We need an upgrade to Malzeno.
Silver light illuminates the land and the mountains, and with an entranced roar.
Actually, hang on a second.
Let me go to the washroom real quick. We have 20 minutes. Okay, so let me take a short washroom break.
Just a quick one.
I'll go to the washroom, and then when we come back, we're gonna commit to
everything that's going on. Alright?
I'll be right back, chat.
Hope you guys
enjoy me yakking while waiting for the show to start. But yeah, I'll be right back.
Give me 3 minutes. Love y'all.
I present the hunter from Komura.
Humble greetings. All right, everyone.
Please don't. Here I'm merely a quest receptionist.
Alright.
I'm back to.
Hope I didn't take too long. Hang on.
Sense something odious.
My left ear headphone is giving me problems again.
Although technically
It's a common problem, and technically we know what's causing it.
it's just that
These creatures.
And I have to.
fuck! Hang on, whoops. Apparently I forgot to put my
Will be whisked away by a swift gale.
My
The embodied
straps on.
on my right hand.
drained of their
Whoops.
But it's alright, check.
I'm standing on a carpet and a soft exercise mat, so
It absorbs the impact of dropping the controller.
at least a little bit.
Right. Right.
Hang on, why is my... Oh, I need to rebind because my tracker feels off.
I might shift it a little.
Give me a second. Give me 1 second.
1 second. As usual, I'm
Taking like a minute to bind it because I know about this.
You guys know me by now.
Right, Jack? Gimme. Right.
Aye.
There we go. Should be good. Here.
Actually, I just remembered something. I should probably.
You know what?
It's been a while since I posted something to my Twitter. I should post stream announcements since.
Since we are getting quite close to it. Oh boy.
Oh, that is a horrifying ghost artwork. I did.
Okay.
That woke me up.
Sleep.
Deprived. Trap.
Harpy. Try to knock us out live while covering
The monster and
showcase question mark.
and then
All set, and now
I'll grab the link.
and
Link key.
yeah.
Control V.
There we go.
When
I just noticed a fucking typo in my message. You know, Fansly actually has an edit button so I can fix typos, but
Twitter still doesn't have that.
yeah.
Oh well.
You know what? Nothing I can do about it.
Just gonna have to leave the typo there.
I'll leave the fucking typo there.
Fuck. Fucking.
Fucking Twitter, no typos. Fucking.
Ugh.
I need more coffee. Let me drink more coffee, chat.
Time for more coffee. Where's my coffee? Green for everyone. Cheers.
You guys drink coffee or tea in the morning, by the way?
Most of my viewers are American, so
For anyone who's in America, you guys getting up right now? You guys drink coffee or tea in the morning?
These wandering flames shall feed the beast and return to darkness. The story ends. Another begins. Wandering flames. I see you found it.
by the way, chat. This world has
Oops.
here we go. This world has chips. You want some chips? Say there we go.
Hang on, I need to adjust the audio level a bit.
All set.
I think that's a good level.
Give a take. There we go.
You know, I really wish we could actually fight on the chip.
As opposed to having the Admiral
Having the Admiral and Bahari, Toadstool be the ones who pilot the chip, and we don't get to do anything on the chip.
oh, another chip. Say
Oh wow, I don't know what they did, but the audio is so... You know what? I'm going to do this.
I'm going to do this.
Let me check the audio. Ah, got it.
Come on, trailer, play some more.
But in the meantime, I need to feed you guys more chips.
Say
Audio is a little bit on the high end. That's too low. I don't know if this is due to the
world player being updated, or if the
or if the streams audio is really loud.
can't tell. Yeah, I'm gonna check that off the stream.
Can't check it right now, but I'll check it off the stream. Hang on, someone just sent me a message.
Hang on a second. Hang on.
Someone just sent me a message.
Eh?
Wait, did it go off? Someone sent me a message in VR, but it might have gone off.
Oh. Did it go off? Yeah, they went off.
Unfortunate. I was gonna respond to them, but oh well.
Oh,
Okay, 6 minutes to go, chat.
6 minutes to go. 6 minutes to go. I'm excited. I'm excited. I wanna know what stuff I'm gonna get. What stuff I'm gonna get.
Okay, okay. Hang on, let me prepare. Let me prepare
My overlay for.
the next segment now. Also,
I'm going to
it's gonna happen in the next one. Is I'm gonna have you guys on my hand
right over here.
as opposed to being a screen I look at. I wonder if we're ever going to get a event weapon for Gunlands, because
I tell you, every time there is a fan design competition,
there's some amazing fan designs for Gunlands and it gets a ton of votes,
but in the end,
they never go with Gunlands,
they always go with longsword, charge blade.
never Gunlands, and that's
Capcom, why you guys hate Gunland so much?
why did you make our fucking most powerful move in Sunbreak also a move that will make our friends want to strangle us?
Why? Why? It's so powerful.
And yet we can't use it when we're hunting with friends.
Why?
Ugh. God damn it. God damn it, fucking Capcom.
Whoever's in charge of their Gunlands development team,
They need a good
spanking, I swear.
This is actually the song of the Sunbreak hub, but I never hear it
Because my hub music is Poke Village, so
I've never actually heard this.
as soon as I got the ability to assign music to the Sunbreak hub,
I changed the hub music to Poke Village. I kind of feel sorry for Sunbreak's hub in a way, but you know what, Chan? You know what? I gotta rap my village.
my Poke Village, my hometown.
Technically Monster Hunter hometown, but
Yeah. You guys gotta.
you guys ever get that?
You just feel like you gotta rep.
Your place of origin.
Whether it's in a game or fandom or something.
I feel that way with Poke Village in Monhan. Gotta rep Poke Village. I love Malzino's music though.
The music is so good.
The tempo of the fight is so good.
Everything about Malzino is really, really fun.
It's a really brilliant fight. Actually, hang on, where am I in my play space? Okay, so this is play space center, which means I want to move.
Here.
There we go. Okay, guys.
Guys, almost there. Almost there.
Minute to go. Minute 40 seconds to go, chat.
Yeah, we need 40 seconds to go. Almost there, chair. Almost there. Almost there. Almost there.
Gonna hear about Titan.
Title D3 now.
Gonna hear about Titan.
Title D3. You guys excited?
Also, hang on a second. Why the fucking Is it just me or did the screen move? It wasn't supposed to be
There. It's off from where I placed it before.
okay. If I'm facing this way, this is where I'm gonna be neutral.
Right.
Eh?
What was that? What was that?
What? What? 2 notes?
2 notes?
2 random notes? What?
What? What?
Was that a hint? Was that a fucking hint? Was that a fucking hint? Monster Hunter? Was that a fucking hint?
I can't tell. Wait.
What was that?
What was that? Capcom. What the fuck was that?
Oh well.
10 minutes ago.
Okay, I'm going to increase the volume a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go, Jared. Here we go, Jared.
Here we go.
We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see. Let's see.
Ah, humble greetings, dear hunters. I am
So
glad
yeah, they're
to
doing
see you
this
are
for
all
this
enjoying
digital
your
event.
life in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak.
This is
Today,
a
I,
little bit
Game
weird,
Furing,
but
have come here to impart some new information on you all. Without further ado, let us have a look at the latest trailer.
Trailer? 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 Trailer?
I'm
Trailer?
about to join you on your quest. Mission
huh?
time. Let's move out.
What? Think it follows to the next level. Okay, what does that mean? Mastering. Yes! Finally! Fucking finally! Followers in fucking anomaly quest! Fuck yes! Rise of Kushala! Yes! Yes! Fuck yes! Oh god! Teostra too! Fucking! Fuck! Woo! Neon monsters added to anomaly research. 200? Oh. Oh fuck. That's gonna take forever to level up. It's gonna take 4 fucking ever to get to level 200. God. New layer weapons.
Oh.
Oh, does look cute. What is that very strange Valstrax theme? Oh, more?
More.
What the fuck is that? Hang on, I don't want to take my eyes off the screen.
Hang on.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Chaotic gore? Wait, that's not a returning monster, is it? Is that a returning monster, or is it completely new? Wait, is that a completely new monster?
Looks like another very enticing update. I have high hopes for this one.
Fucking hell.
Free title update 3, aka version 13, will be available on November 24th.
That's
Let us
fucking
have a look at
next
all the
week?
new content that will be added
Fucking
in
next
version
week?
13. Shall we? 3 new monsters will be added to version 13. Chaotic Gore Magala, Risen Teostra, and Risen Kushala Da'Ora. Looks like we will have our hands full. chaotic gore Magala, and 2 risen elder dragons.
Chaotic
We
gore.
are
Is
in
that
for quite a
is
fight.
chaotic gore an anomaly or is it a
I suggest
completely
you
new
take some
monster?
rest, eat well, and get
I'm guessing it's a
prepared.
new variant.
Oh, okay, good. So it's telling me chaotic gore. We're gonna find out about chaotic gore.
Gore Magala are creatures that continuously shed their skin until they grow into Shigaru Magala. Sometimes, however, the process fails along the way, and they develop into a deformed variant known as chaotic Gore Magala. Perhaps because of their ambiguous growth, they are known to possess attacks of both Gore and Shigaru Magala. Occasionally, they show expressions of intense agony, so I can't help but feel sorry for them.
Okay, half gore and half
Shaggy. Okay.
2 new risen elder dragons have been sighted recently.
Okay, these are anomalies.
Tiastra and Kushala Daora have overcome the affliction and are even more menacing than their regular counterparts. When their anger reaches its peak, they go into their risen state, and there's no telling what devastating attacks they'll unleash. Beware.
Ah,
Chaotic Gore Magala will be available at Master Rank 10.
Really? Chaotic gore is that
Risen
early?
Tiostra and Risen Kushala Daora quests will be unlocked at
Oh.
Master Rank 120.
And getting
or
to I've already surpassed
Again,
that.
That's easy.
Their strength must not be underestimated, but I'm sure their materials will yield some valuable new
Ooh.
weapons, armor, and
Ooh.
skills. So at
Oh,
least there's
wow.
a silver lining
Wow,
to all
that looks
that
I have
looks
to say that with all
crazy.
these powerful monsters running amok, both Elgato and Kimura are extremely fortunate to have you around. I hope you will continue to lend us your strength.
Okay.
okay.
Very good
I've
so
been
far.
informed A7 star anomaly quests will
A7.
be added.
Uh-huh.
Okay, more
They
anomalies.
include a variety of fearsome monsters,
Uh-huh.
such as Flaming Espiness, Scorned Magnamalo, and Seething Basil Geese.
Alright.
Anomaly investigations
Oh God,
will have
fucking
their cap raised to
200?
level 200, and now
Ugh.
you'll be able to lower the level on quests you possess.
Okay, this is at least a good
Weapons will also
quality of life
receive
change.
new augment categories, and there will be a new way of augmenting armor for curious crafting.
Okay, this.
This is important.
You'll be able to pick from defense or skills, so you may find it easier to get the stats you want.
Huh? You have to pick from defense or skills? So how is it weighted?
Is it all?
Defense
Speaking
or
of
all
equipment,
skills? Or
what's your favorite main weapon? Just
Gun lance?
between you and me,
specifically for
I've been thinking
Sunbreak?
of learning the
Gun
hammer
lance?
recently. Or the sleepy bear hammer, to be exact.
Aww.
So cute.
Aww.
If I take this big fluffy weapon with me on my hunts, I can just see myself smiling all day. Never mind any of that.
Silly
As
joke
leader
weapons.
Of the order, I have no need for such things. Besides, I am a master of the sword and shield. It doesn't behoove someone of my stature to think about sleepy bears and big cuddly weapons that you just want to snuggle up with.
This
As
is
I was
cute.
saying, that kind of behavior is inappropriate for a knight. No cutesy weaponry for me. Now it's time for more info.
Yes, please, more info.
Yes, the expanded follower system. Okay, this is something I've been wishing for since Sunbreak. Launch.
The follower quests which allow you to bring your friends from Kimura and Elgato will be expanded. Let's see. You
Okay.
will now be able to bring followers with you on almost all Master Rank quests,
Almost?
as well as anomaly quests and anomaly investigations.
Yes! Yes! Finally!
Quite exciting.
We can make followers in anomalies!
More followers as you complete follower quests. So
These
if
are the
you
ones we
haven't
already
done
have.
so yet, now is the time to complete a few of those, so you'll have more options to choose from.
Technically,
when
I've already
setting
fully
out on a
unlocked all of the
quest.
follower stuff.
Going on
I did my
quests with your
homework.
close friends. Oh, I think my sister Rondine would find this all quite romantic. Followers used to be restricted to specific quests, but now you'll be able to take them almost anywhere. Quite heartening.
So, what's the exceptions?
If it's almost anywhere.
Are they
Version
not
13
included
will
in?
also introduce new paid DLC,
Oh,
such as gestures, stickers,
New
new
BGM.
BGM, Chiche and Bahari player voices, and
Huh?
even a Hinoa layered armor set.
oh,
The
Wait,
lineup of
Hinoa layered
weapons
armor?
introduced in
Don't we
version
already
12
have that?
will be expanded as well. Such as the Stuffed Monster series,
Oh,
based on a
God.
variety of monsters for all 14 weapon types.
Okay, this is actually
You can
really
buy
cute.
each weapon separately, or all of them in a discounted set.
Recorded version of Val's tracks.
Can I take these cute, cuddly weapons with me as well? That's the one for sword and shield. As in ogre. Oh, that's quite lovely. Exquisite even. This is a good opportunity
Recorded
to try
Val's
out
tracks?
other weapons too. Excellent.
wah, 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 wah.
Okay, I'm kind of tempted to
Looks
get
like there will
that.
be more event quests as well. Make sure to try them all,
Ow.
as there's always some fun rewards, like equipment, stickers, poses, and various other things. On top of that, there will be a new character voice called Kagami as
Huh?
free DLC as well. So this Kagami, he's the leader of our Royal Secret Service, which explains why I hardly ever see him, let alone talk to him.
A new.
He's another enthusiastic dual blades wielder, and he's an old friend of Master Atsushi's actually. I've
Really?
heard many stories about him. I look forward to actually hearing his voice. Make sure you don't miss out.
So a new character that is fully voiced, but they
Monster
didn't
Hunter Rise Sunbreak will receive more
put into the
free
game, and they're
updates after
releasing as
version
voice packs.
13 in
Interesting.
2023. Version 14 is planned for winter 2023. and will
Elder
contain an
Dragon?
Elder Dragon and a powered-up monster.
Will contain an Elder Dragon?
Looks like we've got our work cut out for us. Apparently, there's even a version 15 coming in
Hang
spring
on.
of 2023.
Hang on, an Elder Dragon?
Don't know
Hang
much
on.
about that yet,
Hang on.
except that it will add more monsters.
What do you mean,
Gotta get
an
mentally
Elder
prepared for
Dragon?
that one. In any case,
What Elder
look
Dragon?
forward to more hunts with you,
A
the
new one?
bears.
A returning one?
All right, recap time. Free title update 3, that is version 13, will release on November 24th. And there will be more updates in 2023. I hope you look forward to more information on Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Hope to see you again soon, hunters. Until we meet again. Admiral! Oh,
What?
Admiral! Did you hear
What?
the news?
What?
There's going to be layered weapons that look like
Oh,
really
God damn
cute
it.
stuffed monster toys.
Oh,
my
that's
good
cute.
velvet sword and shield are fashioned after a Zen ogre, and you wouldn't believe how adorable it is.
Well,
That was it for the showcase. So,
so, several important things were given to us in the
let me go back down here. There we go.
several important things were announced. First,
We have, well, we have two risen monsters in Kushala, and
Teostra, okay?
we were kind of wondering whether or not whether they were going to release multiple risen or just one risen at a time. Yeah, a lot of people are unsure of the exact pattern of the risen releases, and it turns out that
turns out that, yeah,
they're choosing to release two risen monsters.
hang on a second. Kushala and Teostra.
So we got that. It's not that surprising that being released because we kind of guessed based on the fact that Risen Chameleos exists, which is another Risen Elder Dragon. We guess based on that the other two parts of the trio being Kushala. Where's oh okay, my screen is over there. There we go. Yeah, the trio being Chameleos, Kushala, and Teostra. We've already guessed that since Chameleos has a risen form, Kushala and Teostra were also going to get a risen form, but we didn't know if they were going to release both Kushala and Teostra at the same time, risen forms I mean, or if they're going to do one this update and then another one next updates, but it looks like they're giving us both this update, so that's that question answered. But another interesting thing that they did, they're giving us a new monster, a new variant in the form of Gore Magala, Chaotic Gore. A Gore Magala that's halfway between normal Gore Magala and Shigara Magala. It's kind of excuse me, burping. Sorry. Stream Talk described it as half gore, half shaggy. Actually, you know what? Before we can go on with my train of thought, let's go to a different world chat. Let's go to a different hangout world. I want to go to a different hangout world. One with better lighting. It used to be fucking VR chat. Can you fucking can you cooperate? Please, why aren't you cooperating? Fucking come on. VR chat. Hello. Why aren't you working? Fucking VR chat. VR chat? Are you broken? Let's see what happens when I join this world. Can I go? Oh, I can. Oh. Since we can't go to the other world, I guess we'll go to this world. Now let me see if I can go to the other world. I can go to the other world. Okay. We're going to the other world. Apparently my oh no, my VR chat was bugged and I needed to load into a new world and to fix it, but oh. Yeah, we'll go to this world and chill out here. Nice comfy world for us to relax in. Okay, here we go. Come on in, chat. Don't mind the camera. It's not nothing sus goes on in here. I show you. I'm just gonna put the camera over there. Here. See, where's that good lighting in this world? this is nice lighting.
Alright. Yeah, be here.
Actually, hang on. Da, da, da. Da, da. Da, da. Da, 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 da.
Hopefully the nice bright lighting will help me.
Not collapse and pass out.
I'm trying my best.
So yeah, where was I? Right.
The updates.
We got halfway between Shaggy and Gore. We don't know. They didn't say whether or not that Chaotic Gore Magala was an Elder Dragon. That's the most important thing because
The weird thing about Gore Magala is that
when he's Gore Magala, he's capturable because he's not an Elder Dragon. When he evolves into Shaggy by just shedding his skin, he becomes an Elder Dragon and then he's uncapturable.
Gore Magala is weird that way. So I don't know.
They didn't really say whether or not Chaotic Gore Magala was a normal dragon or an Elder Dragon.
Although based on the fact that his name is Chaotic Gore,
The Gore Magala being the base form, I think more than likely he's not going to be an Elder Dragon. He's most likely going to be capturable, but we'll have to see. It should be a very interesting monster to fight. That might explain why Shaggy... Well, it wasn't I who said this, but because I never fought Shaggy before, I have no idea what his movesets are like.
but
There are people I know who said that. Hang on.
I just realized something. I have to.
Get rid of this. There we go.
Sorry for that.
Yeah, I had to turn off some seats, but
Yeah.
yeah, some people I know who said that Shaggy is
Easy.
yeah. I have no way to compare it because I never fought Shaggy or Gore before. I skipped 4th gen.
But
Yeah, some people said that Shaggy was easy, and
if he is easy,
despite supposedly being the harder version of Gore, maybe this is why.
maybe they were.
Saving the difficulty for the variant that they just introduced.
That would be
That would be how they tend to balance things.
like
Master Rank Magna Malo is piss easy. Instead, they save the difficulty for Scorned Magna. Same with any monster in Master Rank that has a normal version and a different variant or subspecies version as well.
that's how it goes. Although
Because of the anomalies,
the anomalies added an extra layer of increased difficulty, which is kind of weird because
what normally happens when we have a Master Rank / G Rank expansion is that everything gets brought up to Master Rank, they get harder. Some of the base monsters get a variant, and those variants are themselves harder still, and that's it. Maybe you can have subspecies for the variant, stuff like that, but otherwise
that's fine.
the difficulty doesn't really spike from there. But
And Sunbreak, Rise and Sunbreak,
we have everything brought up to Master Rank, which is a difficulty increase. And then a bunch of monsters got variants, that's a difficulty increase, and subspecies as well, but yeah, you guys get the gist of it. Both subspecies and variants are difficulty increases.
And then
We have anomalies on top of that, and anomalies apply to all monsters. And with the way things are going, it looks like they'll have anomalies of every monster in the game. Anomalies from all the normal monsters, risen for the Elder Dragons.
so
It's looking like the balancing is very weird because the anomalies add another layer of difficulty spike where previously there wasn't really, at least not a difficulty spike that changed the way the monsters fought so drastically. Yes, in World they had normal monsters, subspecies and variants, and then tempered monsters, but tempered monsters were just essentially the same as the monsters they were based off of, but they were
hang on.
excuse me.
Sorry, coughing.
But yeah, tempered monsters in World were essentially just the same as the base and variant subspecies monsters, just with higher aggression and more damage and more health. That was basically it for tempered monsters. It was only arch-tempereds that introduced unique stuff to the monsters, and only Elder Dragons got arch-tempereds.
So
Yeah, there wasn't that. There wasn't a second layer of everything difficulty increase again in World, and I don't think there was ever anything like that in any Monster Hunter, except maybe the 4th gen. I've heard that there's the whole Berserker virus thing, but I have no idea how that functions, so I'm gonna have to ask people who played 4th gen how the difficulty spikes were handled in that.
fine, yeah. So yeah. What was I saying? I've completely lost my train of thought. Hi, Peanut. Welcome.
Welcome, you missed
The Monster Hunter Showcase.
You miss me jumping.
Up and down, kinda. Because of the new announcements that they did. Yeah, making food.
Oh, I'm sorry. But it's okay, it's okay. You can always go back and watch the vlog.
I've always be there.
Unless Capcom decides to fucking TMCA smash me, but I doubt they'll TMCA smash me.
I doubt it. I'm way too small.
Well, Panzer.
Hello. How's it going?
How's everyone doing? Welcome to Sleep Deprivation.
Trailer coverage stream.
Smash IT? What Smash?
Who smash what? I'm
sleep deprived.
my short-term memory is kind of like screwy right now. I
haven't slept for 30 hours.
I've been awake for 30 hours, so yeah.
It's going silver.
Oh, you managed to solve out after that ice cream.
Hey, do you save some ice cream for me?
Answer? Where's my ice cream? I would like some ice cream too. Can I get some ice cream? Yeah.
We're just going over the Monster Hunter stuff that was revealed during the showcase. We got 2 Risen Elder Dragons. We got a new Chaotic Gore Magala, which I believe is a completely new variant that was introduced in this game. We got. I'm gonna go to the augments, armor augments. Yeah, they're adding 2 new armor augments for. Well, 2 new armor augmentation processes for armor, which is rather than just the generic armor augments that we've been doing right now, where we could get everything. The showcase described it as we can choose between defense or skill. I don't know. They didn't show it, that's the thing. They didn't show the new augmentation process in action. The augment that they did on stream was the standard augment. And their exact words were, we can choose either defense or skill in our augmentation process. I don't know if it means that it's now that the new processes weigh it to be more towards either defense or skill, and there's high chance of either or, but that we can still get, you know, the stuff from the non-chosen side, or like if we chose the skill augmentation, whether it would only get us skills. That is something that we have to figure out. Also, they didn't say. We have to figure out whether detriments, negatives can happen even if we go for the not unweighted version. I am going to assume you're not going to give it to us easy, because they don't want the defense and skill augmentation processes to supersede stagnant augmentation. So one or two things could happen. Either it's just additional weightage to defense or skill based on which process we choose, and we can still get the stuff from the unchosen side. It's just that, you know, lower chance, and yeah, it's just weighted differently. It's either that, or we only get the thing we chose, meaning if we chose augment skills, we will only get skill augmentations, both positives and negatives, which if we can only get skills, both positives and negatives, honestly, that's actually very weak. Because with the way armor augmentations work, what we're actually aiming for is to have the armor get weaker in terms of defense so that more points can be placed into skills. That's what we're actually trying to roll for. At least with the max rank armors. With the low rank armors, that's not so important. So maybe yeah, there's a lot of questions we can't really answer until we actually just do it and we play the game. And I'll of course check with the Masterless Nest to see what they can discover.
So yeah. Hang on,
let me rebind again, because I feel like I feel like my binding is off.
Very off. Give me a second, Jack. Give me a minute. Also, sorry if it feels like I'm ignoring chat.
I wanted to get my full train of thought out before I got distracted, so yeah.
What do you guys say?
all mine.
What Panzer? Sharing is caring. You should learn to share, Panzer. Good boys. Learn to share.
Yes, share ice cream with me. Why is it every time you see me, I'm sleep deprived and been awake for a long time?
What are you talking about? It doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're imagining things. This doesn't happen often at all, chat.
Doesn't happen often at all.
No, I'm fine. I'm told.
I'm totally fine, yes. Either way, sounds like we get more options to properly round out the build.
Yeah. The new defense or skill-oriented augmentation process could be fun. And then the last one, the last big update, the biggest game changer. Well, technically, there's also a bunch of updates like more event quests, more DLC, weapons, music, and all that stuff. So you guys already know to expect that the DLC, weapon skins, and all that.
But
Hang on, before I go to the last thing, the massive game changer. That honestly was the biggest thing I was hoping for.
gotta jinx everyone, clean pie.
I need coffee.
Coffee. Let me put your chair away. There we go. Alright, so yeah.
The biggest game changer in TU3.
For me personally,
They are adding the ability for us to bring followers in almost every quest, including anomaly hunts and anomaly investigations.
that is a huge game changer. That is,
Massive, chat.
you have no idea. That is fucking massive.
I can now, since
Sunbreak was released
and we got followers and
all that.
I have been asking for the ability to bring followers into other quests, especially anomaly hunts.
But we couldn't.
But Title Update 3 is adding the ability for us to bring followers into anomaly hunts.
And
Their exact wording, almost every quest. The fact that the exact word they use is almost
suggests that
there's gonna be limitations somewhere.
but they didn't specify where.
They just said almost every quest, but they did specifically mention
That anomalies and investigation.
you can take followers into those.
So yes.
The biggest problem I had with anomaly investigations and grinding them out was the fact that I couldn't take followers in with me.
And
If I didn't have friends alone, it's dull as bricks, just hunting monsters that I don't need over and over and fucking over again because I don't have the levels I need. That was so fucking boring. Oh my god. But now
followers are there to help pick up the monotony. So yeah. Yes,
looking forward to using followers in anomaly hunts.
that's gonna be fun. I was actually
heavily considering
prior to this update.
installing the a mod that will allow me to bring followers into all of my quests.
There is a mod to allow that, but
I didn't install it because I knew that when the next title update comes out, it's probably gonna break, and I don't want to depend on it.
so yeah,
I was like,
just gonna
just gonna ignore it. Although I did keep staring at it. I can bring followers. I looked at the mod and I was like, I can bring followers into anomalies, which would help break the monotony so much. And I was really tempted, chat. I was really tempted to install the mod, but I was like, I don't want to go through the trouble of having to uninstall the damn thing after the update breaks. But
now. The update is adding it. It's adding the functionality first, so yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. You should
You should have seen my reaction when they announced it.
Gee, hang on. Why is my... Okay, that was strange.
Yeah, sorry.
My controller was frozen, but yeah.
You should have seen my reaction when I saw that announcement.
And it was the first thing they showed as well. Well, they showed a new trailer, but yeah, that was the first thing. One of the first things they announced, and
in the trailer, I was like,
yes. I was practically jumping up and down.
and yeah, if you go and watch the VOD,
And you'll see me
going apeshit over the ability to bring followers into anomaly quests and anomaly investigations.
I'm so happy. I was so happy they added that.
So yeah,
Even though technically I'm going to be very busy playing
Dark Tide,
starting tomorrow, assuming nothing goes wrong.
and also I'm also going to be
Busy doing, or at least preparing and starting streams on that.
other site that I cannot name nor link.
I need to prepare and go over to that site and start streams there.
I need to. And I can't name the site, but most of you regulars that already know what site I'm talking about, chat.
A site that I talked about before posting my content over there.
And I'm preparing to start streams on that site.
And I've been working on stuff to make sure I can stream on that, so
Yeah.
I wonder if I can do a
Little teaser of
the stuff I was working on that's meant to be used on that site.
Decisions.
Wait, no, before I get off on a tangent, is there anything else I want to mention?
Regarding Monster Hunter,
New DLCs, new stuff, new event quests.
um,
A very cute set of layered weapons, which
look like stuffed toys. They're really cute.
what else? Oh right, the rank limit of anomaly investigations is being increased to 200. So be ready to spend dozens, if not 100 hours grinding up to anomaly rank fucking 200. Oh my fucking god. And I only got to anomaly rank 108 after all my grinding. I didn't manage to achieve my goal of getting my anomaly rank to 111. Fuck. Fuck. God damn it. Fuck. Oh. Oh. I'm gonna have to. I have to figure shit out.
We'll see what happens. Right here.
Okay, now I think that's it for Monster Hunter.
Yeah, that's it for Monster Hunter. That was everything they announced in today's tech update.
Oh, one last thing. They mentioned they teased they just teased using words. Title update 4. They specifically mentioned an elder dragon and a powered up monster in title update 4. The fact that they mention an elder dragon implies that you're introducing a new elder dragon that's at least new to Rise and Sunbreak. I don't. But other than that, we have no clue what it could be. Could be a completely new elder dragon that's new to the series, or a returning elder dragon from some other previous game. But
Yeah,
they mentioned an elder dragon and powered up monsters.
so. That's what we have to look forward to in Title Update 4.
And title update 5. Wait, title update 4, they didn't mention the release date, right?
Yeah, you mentioned a release window.
I think they mentioned early next year, was it? February, I think. I think that was the tentative plan.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh. 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 Oh, I feel weird.
So hang on, Chandler, let's go to a different world.
I want to go to a different world. Oh. Technically, we're going to the same world, a different version of it.
Although there is a reason for it.
Okay. Let's head on in, chat.
Oops.
Whoopsie.
Aye. So, the lighting in this world is a little bit weird when we stand here.
So,
Unfortunately, we can't use that sofa.
over there because the sofa.
That's the weird lighting, but instead, we'll come over here. This place has some better lighting. It's pretty nice.
And the reason why we're coming here, chat.
Before we do anything, let me...
Drink more coffee.
Everyone,
Drinks time.
every drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you're here for the moment, chat. Can be coffee, tea, water, whatever you have.
As long as you're here.
On your 3, 2, 1.
Bye, chat. Cheers. Actually, Chan, can you give me a moment? I have to change. Okay, guys.
I'm wearing shoes and stuff.
Give me a moment, Chan. Don't peek now.
Let's see. Actually, wait, I don't have enough room to change without.
You guys, the peek. Actually, you know what?
Yeah, let me put this camera out of the way.
You know what, Chan? I'll just change right over here. Promise not to peek, okay?
Just.
Let me take this off. There we go. No, the top as well. There we go. Okay. Now I'm a lot more comfy. Let's relax, Shen. I want to test something out as well, actually.
We're gonna be testing multiple things.
Today.
We need to test this out as well. See how well this functions.
Sure. Don't worry, Chan. Technically,
We've done everything we want to do for stream today, so
that's why I'm letting myself do the dangerous thing of sitting down because considering my current state, if I sit down,
I'm probably gonna
pass out, like start passing out.
and
Yeah. I think that's about to happen. Beautiful. Oh, thank you. I try my best to look good for you guys. I want you guys to enjoy the stream after all.
get this out of the way. There we go.
Can you hear that?
Can you hear the thunder and lightning? I'm not sure if my noise suppressor is
Getting rid of it, but yeah,
just thunder and lightning.
going on right now in the distance.
Oops.
Now let me just try to get this camera to work properly. There we go.
I'm gonna set this pillow here.
Perfect. You guys can chill and be comfy with me. There we go. Mm-hmm. Oh. Yellow maps. This is kind of like my goal, my fitness goal, to have apps like these. I don't have these yet, sadly.
I'm hoping to get them.
One day, but I've been slacking, Jack.
I've been slacking. I need to
Start dancing again.
And what I am planning, chat, with regards to Fansly. What Fansly?
Not Fansly. What are we talking about? Not Fansly.
Yeah, what I'm planning with regards to
The other site that I cannot name is to
use that site to encourage me to
get to work out again. You don't have a 6-pack, you have a cake. Oh, oh. It's fine though.
as long as that cake has a
Has muscle underneath it.
the important thing is that muscle.
That's what makes it hot.
The F site?
Mm.
Hang on, let me try positioning the camera over there instead. What if I put the camera this way?
Mm-hmm.
How's the lighting on this side?
Hang on.
Is the lighting okay?
Yeah, the lighting's better. The lighting didn't look that good the other way, but this way it looks better.
Need some proper banging scran, so good.
Proper banging scran? What's that? That's scran. Now you got me curious, chat. What's scran? You gotta tell me what it is now. Since you mentioned it and got me all curious. Wanna share with chat? Forgive me. Anything you want to share with the class? British slang for food. Oh,
Alright,
that's fine. Yeah,
I already had something to eat earlier, so
I'm good for food.
hang on.
Trying to find the best angle for this.
I got them.
Ah. Is there any way I can disable pickups?
Collider, mirror, no.
No way for me to disable pickups. That's annoying.
I have to be careful about pickups then.
Oh, this is good.
You know, I've never actually had a proper
British breakfast? Something I've never had.
I've seen people post
the quote-unquote proper British breakfast to me before.
and I've always been like, oh god.
That looks terrible. uh, hmm.
Oh yeah, I've never had a proper British breakfast before.
Proper, yeah. No proper British breakfast.
Although I have had British sausages.
Mhm. Mm. Don't worry, Chan, I'm not gonna be able to fall asleep. Mainly because
This isn't comfortable enough for me to
fall asleep. Also, yeah, I don't know if you can hear it, but
There's a lot of thunder and lightning outside my window right now.
it's
kinda making sure I don't fall asleep, because if I fall asleep then
I'm going to accidentally leave my tech on, and
yeah, that's bad. I want to protect my tech.
Mm. What's a good angle for this?
Trying to decide on a good angle.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm. Is having
A tilted angle like that nice or not nice?
I'm not sure. Mm. Go make me some
Nah, I'm not hungry. Like I said, I already had something to eat earlier.
before stream. I made sure I had proper food before I started stream.
And a midnight snack.
So yeah. Oh, Chan.
I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but something changed
On YouTube,
over the last like
I would say
2 weeks, and it's
part of the
thing that's necessitating my speeding up my.
what
Why is it focusing on the wrong part?
focus there. There we go. Yeah.
Part reason what necessitating my starting the stream on the other side. If I may give you guys some insight into what's been troubling me over the last 2 weeks.
Um.
I thought I just heard something weird. Do I have anything playing in the background? I don't think so.
Just in case, let me.
Close this so I don't have anything weird that could start playing.
There we go.
Yeah. Something that's been troubling me over the past 2 weeks.
I don't know what caused it.
Whether it's due to my own lack of like making good content, or if it's due to a change in the algorithm or something I did or whatever, but my YouTube, I was getting lowish views on YouTube anyway, but past 2 weeks my views on YouTube has gone dead, basically completely dead. and I don't know what caused it exactly. Part of me is worried that I'm not making good content. Part of me, but then again, I don't no idea how to tell whether or not it's good content. On the other hand, I'm thinking maybe I'm just not hardworking enough to not hardworking enough to make content that's fitting with the algorithm and stuff. But yeah, my impressions on YouTube has died, just rock bottom. I've gone from getting 40 views down to 11 on average. This stream, I'm thinking I'm only going to get like maybe 5 or 6 views. And yeah, I don't know if it's me or something that's changed in YouTube, but either way, this has been bothering me. Technically, I've been worried about this since I've been exiled from Twitch, but I've been worrying about my YouTube views since I came here, but recently over the last 2 weeks I've died on YouTube. It's death. My YouTube has died. And I need to work smarter, not harder. So I need to put more content out on the other side, which the photo shoot I did last night, which kind of made me stay up today because I accidentally did a photo shoot when I wasn't supposed to. Well, that's going to be posted onto my Discord and that other site. So yeah, that's gonna be content there. And I'm gonna be doing streams on that other side as well. I'm going to be getting off my lazy ass and trying to work towards this, hopefully with that site as help. Yeah, I'm gonna be asking friends for some input. How much am I promoting myself? Fansly and Twitter, mainly. Fansly and Twitter. Although YouTube itself, you can explode on the algorithm provided you make good content. But I have a feeling that I'm just not making good YouTube content because YouTube recently, this isn't me, it's other content creators on YouTube saying this. We need to do there was a change in YouTube algorithm recently where they say you need to do live streams and shorts. Well, they were pushing live streams for a while, really hard in the algorithm, and then they started pushing shorts really hard, including live streams. I don't know if my death on YouTube is due to one, me being lazy, or two, them changing the algorithm to deprioritize live streams and only push shorts, you know. But then again, the fact that I don't do shorts is just laziness on my part. I'm not the kind of person who does shorts, to be honest. Shorts is a very Zoomer type of content, and I often like to tell little stories in the videos that every video that I've edited so far, even though it's not many, every video I've edited has been little stories with a payoff, like maybe 8 to 10 minutes long. But YouTube is pushing shorts right now, which is Zoomer content, and I know myself well enough to know that I don't understand nor desire to do Zoomer content. Sometimes something would happen that would, necessitate me, where I myself would be like, okay, that could work as a short.
Thinking about it, but
It's rare. Or maybe I just need to, bite the bullet, not stop, swallow my pride and just do it.
They're hit or miss when it comes to views.
Yeah, they're hit and miss, but still,
I need to do it.
if I don't do it, then I'm intentionally hamstringing myself due to the reality of YouTube, so
Need to do shorts. Need to do.
content on the other side.
Need to do.
Well, technically, the content on the other side is partially shared on Twitter as well, so
Yeah.
need to work smarter, not harder. Need to diversify.
The whole.
The whole thing that I was supposed to have learned after being exiled from Twitch was to diversify.
My platform, so
I should do that. I should learn the lesson that I was supposed to learn. Diversify.
diversify. God damn it!
Stop being lazy.
I'm very lazy. Chan.
I'm the type of person who gets into a habit of doing a easy thing and I just keep doing it.
And in a loop, so
I need to not be lazy. I need to be.
I need to.
Diversify. I need to do bits of everything.
So yeah.
Used to be short vids don't do good at all, need to do long vids, but now it's the opposite.
Yeah, pretty much. Now it's the opposite.
Now it's almost exclusively shots, and depending on whether or not it's just my I don't know if it's my laziness or YouTube changing the algorithm or both, but yeah,
It appears that,
my live streams are dead on YouTube.
and I need to.
Do shorts.
So
I'm going to. I will. Okay. I will try to make it a point, at least one short per gameplay stream.
that's.
I will try to make that a point. One short per stream.
That's a good thing to aim for, right?
Keep an eye out for a short. If you guys can clip funny moments that you want to immortalize, I would more likely to turn that into a short
That's how you guys can contribute.
using clips down below. Even though technically
Clipping is not really part of.
YouTube's culture, but yeah, clips can still be used to help highlight segments that you eventually turn into shorts.
So yeah. Yeah.
This was supposed to be a new beginning. I need to push myself. Be lazy, push myself. Work. Stop being lazy, diversify, actually work.
So yeah.
You don't know how clips even work on YouTube. As far as clicking the clip button works, it pops up an interface that is very similar to Twitch. So that interface, that is similar to Twitch. But where clips differ from Twitch is on what happens once the clip is actually published. When you publish the clip, it doesn't create a short, essentially. It does not do that. What it does it produces a link that points directly to the segment of the video or the stream that you clicked. and people who watch the clip will go to that particular segment that you highlighted. It's almost like creating a highlight rather than a clip. Yeah, I would compare it more to a highlighted than a clip, a highlight of a single moment. You can highlight a single moment, you generate a link, and that link leads back to that particular section of the stream that you segmented out, and yeah, it's nested as part of the streams, as still within the stream video or video stuff, and then people can watch your clip, and then from there they can either watch the rest of the thing or whatever. So yeah, that's how clips on YouTube differ from Twitch. The basic gist of it. So yeah. Smexy content ourselves. Oh yeah, I do know. I know from my personal experience that Smexy content helps. Although I'm not gonna do Smexy content here. This YouTube is going to be chill content. Chill relaxation content. Give me one full Smexy content that's gonna be on the other side. Just to be safe. Da, 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 da. This Monster Hunter showcase reaction stream has kind of turned into a bit of a real talk stream. I apologize, chat, for chatting you guys into my real talk concerns. But I felt like I needed to get it off my chest, but at the same time, by me getting this off my chest, I'm dumping it on you guys, and I don't want to burden you guys with this. These are my problems that I have to deal with. Nobody can help me but me. So, yeah. I have to put in the work. And it has to be smart work. Not just bashing my head against the wall work. I have to work hard, but work smart. So, yeah. I will either do it or die trying. But yeah, guys, can you actually hear the lightning outside? I'm actually really curious. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the lightning that's going on. I have a feeling it's gonna rain soon. Which is technically good news for me because rain will be really, really nice. I just thought of something, chat. Oh, something I can do. Something I can do to prepare for fancy stream that's cheaper. I can. That has a dual purpose of. I can do something special, chat. Something very special. That's not gonna cost too much. Ooh, and it's technically something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Okay. I just had an idea. Something I can prepare for fancy stream. Oh wait, fuck. I tend to get caught up in this feature creep. I just keep wanting to add more and more stuff to what I'm doing, which is technically not good. I should cut myself off at some point and be like, No, don't add any more stuff. Just do a stream first and add stuff later. Uh, fuck. Hang on a second. Why is that always? That was annoying. Oops. I noticed something about my avatar in this world that was just an idea. When it comes to shader and lighting. I'm not sure if the harsh dark lighting is better or worse. Let me see if I can reduce the harshness a little bit. Nope. Can't reduce the harshness. Oh well. Hello, epic guy, welcome. We're just winding down. We did Monster Hunter earlier. The Monster Hunter showcase, and you were winding down. Although part of me feels a little bit active right now. I have a feeling I won't be able to properly wind down until I actually stop the stream and do the things I need to do after stream. There's a couple of things I need to do after stream. Yeah, you know, one thing I really need to do before I go, I need to take screenshots for Dark Tide tomorrow. You wanna come with me, Trent? You wanna come with me? You want to come with me? Come with me to take screenshots for Dark Tide? For the Dark Tide stream? Let's take screenshots together. Spend a couple of minutes for you guys. Take screenshots together. You guys can accompany me while I prepare for a Dark Tide stream. Well, do part of the preparation for the Dark Tide stream. Now here's a question. Should I go out wearing this or no? What do you guys think? Would you guys like this outfit for a thumbnail? I don't think I've used this outfit for a thumbnail before. Oh yeah, let's go. Alright. Now let's see. Let's see. Let's look for. Oh, hang on. I need to return that back to standard. Oops. Hang on. Sorry, chat. Accidentally clicked the wrong thing.
There we go. Okay.
So first things first, we need to find a world. There was a Warhammer world that I used previously, but
Um.
I need to see if there's a better
Warhammer world I can use.
a webway. That's Alda. We don't want to
You don't want to.
work for Eldar. And we're technically Darktide takes place in a high city, so we need something that's very building.
Heavy.
If you guys know any good Warhammer worlds,
Warhammer 40k worlds, feel free to suggest.
What's this? Warhammer 40k cross-platform. Let's try this.
Let's try this chat. Oh, nobody minds me going out wearing this outfit.
Let's see how this world looks.
Da, da,
Da, da, da, da, da.
da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da.
Hmm.
The guns are gigantic. Hang on, if the guns are that big,
I need to.
I think I need to, yeah, I need to use a big avatar.
Give me a second, guys. While I switch avatars.
I'll use my real height avatar.
There we go.
And let me
Switch my outfit over. There we go. Now let me just turn this on.
and turn this on.
Perfect.
And
Da.
this world has much better lighting than the previous world I used.
So maybe this will be better. Let's see here.
Bam, 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 bam. Da, da. Na, 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 na. I'm looking for a weapon that fits my
Size. You see all these weapons all
on these walls. Well, not only fits my size, it has to be non-heretical. Always go for the Old Faithful last pistol. What happens if I... Shit, I can't drop it.
Okay, if I drop it.
It despawns, which is annoying.
Alright, let's see.
What is this like?
Oh, what the hell?
Oh, this is so weird.
Fuck.
Can I not drop down? Hang on. Let me try to respawn. Maybe that was just a spectator room. Let me
Get rid of this. And
spawn this.
good old faithful last pistol.
Hope you guys don't mind being extra close to me.
While I move.
Right, now we're in the right place.
There we go.
This map looks it looks like a board, to be honest.
Hmm.
The lighting is good, but this looks
Looks like we're playing on a
fucking tabletop board, which is.
not the effect I want.
Try to look for another Warhammer book.
Do, do,
Do, do, do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Is there anything that looks like it could be?
Fuck. My palm controller is down to 20%.
Da, 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 da. Drop site massacre.
I need something that looks like
It's in a high city.
there's chaos.
Warhammer Fantasy? No. Rune Metropolis? No.
Warhammer Fantasy, no.
Do,
Do, do, do. Warhammer Hub. Hmm.
Trench Warfare. Or PvP, but that looks like a fucking board. Warhammer Avatars.
Bones Warhammer.
Honestly, the only place I can find that looks... Okay, you know, before we go back to...
The place that I found before. We'll try this place. We'll see if this place works.
If this place doesn't work, then we'll go to...
Previous one I found.
Mhm.
Mhm. Da, da, da,
Da, da, da, da.
da, 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 da.
It's just an avatar wall.
Damn.
PC Warhammer Hub. Yeah, this isn't what I'm looking for.
Uh,
Okay,
okay, it looks like
actually hang on, let's try this for...
let's check this out.
Don't worry about the double music.
It's gonna disappear soon. Mhm.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Oh, this looks so...
Fucking Loris.
No. No, 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 no.
No.
Oh, god damn it. What's with the music?
Fuck.
Fuck. Get us out of here.
Get us the fuck out of here!
Ah! I don't know what the fuck.
Fuck that music is! Uh,
Alright, so these are just Space Marines.
Space Marine.
Avatar World?
Uh,
Hmm.
nope.
Okay,
So,
yep.
never mind. We'll go back to
What I previously used.
because I found
Only one world that
could that fits the overall aesthetic.
even though technically this is a space hulk and not a high city, but
Oh, it's the only map
with the corridors that look
like, you know,
dingy and grungy enough.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it's a high city even though
it's technically a space hulk. This is where I took pictures before.
Alright.
Hi.
So the lighting in this world is very harsh.
But don't worry,
I have
settings that allow me to adjust it.
we are going to go. How do I get into
The game.
that? Is the fucking
How do I get into the game?
assault, assassin.
No.
How do I get into?
Oh, in here. Okay.
Alright, so let's find a good spot to.
Take a picture. I need to find a good spot to take a picture for tomorrow's stream.
This red lighting is good. Ah shit, I can't see you guys. And I can't bring you guys back without.
Fuck!
Okay, chat, sorry I can't see you.
For a minute.
But yeah, the only way for me to see you would be to press a button which also removes this.
So,
How do I want to frame the thumbnail?
decisions.
I already know what props I'm gonna use, but how do I want to do it? What if I use the red light backdrop
There.
and I mean like pointing my gun like so?
Yeah, I think this works. I'm pointing.
Hang on, I'm a bit too bright. Need to add a little bit more shadow.
There we go. Okay.
I look like a bit more. So this is how I plot out my.
My screenshots, guys.
Also, I don't mind moving myself like so, just to make sure that I
Get this right.
Don't worry, chat. I'll be able to see you guys once I'm done what I need with my hand.
So,
I'm going to be.
holding my last gun, last pistol, like so.
Actually, wait. No, you guys.
I'm as it is, so as it is. This will be an ass shot, yes.
So we'll take a picture,
Of this,
and then my opponent will be in down.
the corridor. Need to.
Give myself a proper pinner pose.
Hi, now.
With that, there, I can get rid of this now because I don't need this anymore.
Yeah, now I can bring you guys back. Sorry about that. Pew pew.
Behind the magic.
Yeah, kinda.
Alright, so now I need to do this. I need to switch to the avatar that's gonna be. It's gonna function as the.
Opponent.
Do 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 do. Recently used.
Let's see here.
There's a very specific avatar I want.
This.
Please tell me it works.
Yep, it works. Okay, so
This is gonna be the enemy I'm shooting at. This looks suitably horrifying, right? Where'd the camera go?
there we go.
Roar! 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 Hang on. For the sake of making this easy, I'm gonna create a mask.
And
You guys will see.
this. You guys will see.
Me transparent screen a bit, but it's fine. That's part of.
This is part of how.
Roar! Roar! Scary! What if I shoot? I take pictures of multiple. Yeah. Multiple. Yeah. Yeah, multiple. Multiple. Ha 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 ha! Imagine the fucking meme where the cop is running. You know that meme
that
of the cop running directly at the camera?
and it's kind of like a meme video.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, except hordes of Ugandan chungus. Oh, this is gonna be so stupid. I'm gonna take multiple,
Because I'm gonna need.
lots of these. Just gonna fucking.
Hi.
That should be enough, I think. Enough material.
The
I can use any particular.
Ugandan chungus.
There we go. Oh, you know what? You know what? I'm gonna have this Ugandan chungus over here, reaching out. Yes, yes, yes. Anyone here? And it's gonna be reaching out and okay, okay. I don't know if I mentioned this. Well, I don't. Well, technically I did mention it, but I don't know if you guys were here for it. But whenever I take pictures, I like to create a story. Any kind of pictures, to be honest. Whether I do a photo set or I'm just doing a little pic for a thumbnail like this. I do a little story in my head. So yep. The story of that thumbnail is going to be that fighting off a horde of obviously Nurgle Chunguses. Maybe I'll color. I'll shade them green to make them Nurgle because Nurgle is green. That's the Nurgle entities, so I'll just recolor them green. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I'll see what. Oh, make their eyes glow green. It's a lot of work actually for what I'm putting into thumbnail. Maybe. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I'll think about it. What the fuck? Don't worry, Marikaku. We're just having a little bit of fun with stream. Before we end today, I took Chad along with me while I came here to take some thumbnails for tomorrow's Dark Tide stream. So yeah, I think that's good enough. I think that's enough material. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here, Chad. Oops, that's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. There we go. Okay. My brain is a little bit slow. I'm really feeling the effects of sleep deprivation now. Sometimes my brain just freezes. Alright. Well, no stream here, Chan. Go back into our home. Although I'm a little bit too tall for this for right now, so I switch back to my standard height avatar. There we go. Put this camera in the wall. There we go. And get ourselves comfy on the bed. Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here, guys. Whether you're looking or chatting. Love y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream and I hope to see you guys. Unless something goes horrifically wrong, tomorrow for Dark Tide streams. I'm looking forward to it, so yeah, I hope nothing goes wrong. Finally up to speed on the updates. Oh! Yeah, new Risen. What, Camelios and Teostra Risen? Chaotic Gore Magala, which I believe is a brand new Gore variant. new augmentations for armors. Well, new augmentation process which may or may not be useful. We have to see how they work under the hood. Biggest update for me, followers in anomaly investigations. That's the game changer for me, and I'm looking forward to bringing my followers with me. Chaotic Gorma is for you. Oh, Chaotic Gormagala was for you as well? Oh, okay. I thought he was a brand new monster, but okay, so he's returning. Was kind of expecting for another soon. Ah, okay. Thanks for letting me know that Chaotic Gormagala is a returning monster rather than brand new. I skipped 4th gen, so I'm unfamiliar with all the stuff from 4th gen. The Elder Dragon be Kirin. I would be so happy if the Elder Dragon that's returning is Kirin. Please, please give me Kirin. Capcom, I'll suck your dick if you give me Kirin. It's not a proper monster hunter without Kirin. But yeah. Looking forward to hunting with followers and anomaly investigations. It'll make the monotony a lot less boring. Pretty much, it'll make leveling up a lot less boring. Yeah. And that, tomorrow will be, assuming nothing goes wrong, tomorrow we'll be returning with Dark Tide. Although I'm going to not stream immediately once the servers go up, I'm going to give them like maybe 6 hours, give or take, to stabilize, because I'm fairly certain that on pre-order beta launch so the servers are likely going to explode. So I'm going to wait 6 hours, download the game, see if it's okay-ish. I'm gonna work on the thumbnail and all that, and then if nothing goes wrong, then I'll try to stream it. But yeah, I'll let you guys know on my Discord as usual. If Frontier the Dragon, never. Kirin first, get in line. I need my Kirin. Yeah, I'm ending. Completely sleep deprived. My problem controller battery is dying. So yeah. Yeah, thank you for being here, whether you're looking and chatting. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button down below and click the bell. Gotta feed the YouTube algorithm now, although, like I mentioned earlier, I'm fairly certain that my YouTube algorithm is dead. I'm not gonna get many views on this. I'm gonna have to work on shorts, but yeah. I'll try to, like I said, try to make sure that I get at least 1 short per stream. Of course, gotta thank my lovely extra mile supporters who go out of their way to give me lots and lots and lots of extra love. Thank you so much to Lucky, Club.gov, Oxy and Maka for giving me so much of your big tip energy. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. And next up, thank you so much to my Patreon and Fansly supporters as well, even though technically no one is subscribed to my Fansly yet, but technically these two places offer the exact same content. So yeah, I'm just combining them together. Thank you to Leah, Maka, Sakito, Kylon, Lucky, and Shu for being Patreon and Fancy sponsors. Thank you so much. Thank you. Need to suck the algorithm stick. Yeah, I need to suck the algorithm stick with shorts. If only I could literally suck its stick. At least that'll be fun, right? But no, can't do actual dick sucking. I have to do shorts instead. Zoomer content. I don't know how to do Zoomer content. Maybe I'll hire Numi, but we'll see.
I'll see.
Hiring Numi would lighten the load off of me, but yeah, I'll figure something out. So I'll figure out a workflow to getting at least one sharper stream. But yeah, okay. Time for me to go.
Bye, everyone. Love you all. I'm going to collapse and
Go to bed now. Okay. I am beyond 30 hours awake now, and I need to sleep. I'm not going to do a sleeping stream.
sorry. Love you guys. Good night, all. You guys are more than welcome to come cuddle me while I'm sleeping. I'm a cuddler when I sleep. Good night. Love you guys. Thank you, really, everyone, for being here. With my stream algorithm being dead, each and every one of you is extra more important. Thank you so much. I can repay you guys by making you smile. May you guys have some fun. I really hope that you guys enjoy the time here. You guys are amazing. Good night.